They want to kill us all in the morning.
It really is good to have.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature and it haunts me somewhere.
This is one of Marvel's most successful projects after Avengers 4, and also the most perfect farewell movie. Rocket's tragic fate in the movie made me cry. Moreover, in this episode we will introduce the plot in the simplest way and focus on analyzing the easily overlooked details in the movie. First of all, in the intro of the Marvel movie, all the original superhero scenes are replaced with classic scenes from Guardians of the Galaxy. The background music is not the familiar Marvel theme song, and this movie will be the final chapter of the series. The film opens with a group of baby raccoons playing in a dark cage. Suddenly a figure walked up and reached into the cage. The other raccoons all ran away. The current opening of Rockets is accompanied by the daily appearance of the members of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Under the seemingly quiet and peaceful atmosphere before our eyes, there is actually a layer of sadness hidden. Rockets plays this song. He also deliberately turns up the volume of the music player and can't help but sing along to a few lines in the middle. This shows that this song has really resonated with Rocket. He longs for a perfect body but is helpless because he is a freak shapeshifter, as he said in Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 1. Rocket seems to be living a normal life, but in fact he is not. He is like a hedgehog, strong on the outside but weak on the inside. Even though he is currently living in a big family that loves and helps each other, he still cannot untie the knot in his heart. Since Gamera's death, Star-Lord has been in a very depressed mood, is drinking to drown out his sadness. Here Star-Lord once again calls Rocket a raccoon, but Rocket's reaction is no longer as harsh as before, partly because the relationship between the two has become deeper. Another reason is that Rocket understood Star-Lord's depressed mood. When he collapsed due to drinking, Nebula had to carry the drunk Star-Lord out. Drax said, "One more time," which is also true. According to the lyrics, she's running out again. This refers to the past Gamora in Avengers 4, who traveled to the present, but because she didn't have the same feelings and emotions as the current Gamora. The new Gamora didn't join the Guardians of the Galaxy after Endgame ended. Star-Lord lost Gamora again. An old song from the last century can perfectly convey the two characters' voices in the present-day opening of the movie. It must be said that the opening design is really great. After stabilizing Star-Lord, Nebula and Rocket walked out the room together, but their conversation was interrupted. Kraglin, Cosmo's bookie, hit her with a whistled arrow, but Nebula's face showed no anger, only helplessness. Another whistle was heard and the arrow hit Drax in the chest at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2. Cosmo first appeared in Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 1 and is in the Collector's Collection. He joined the Guardians of the Galaxy. The character was inspired by Laika, a puppy sent into space by the Soviet Union in the last century. He was also the first Earthling in history to go into space. He died a few hours after landing in space. Countless cells in space died due to the poor temperature, and his body is still floating in space on the other side to this day. A few hours after it flew into space, it died due to the low temperature in space. To this day, its body is still floating in space. Adam, an extremely powerful character, is on the other side, heading towards the Guardians of the Galaxy's habitat. Adam suddenly attacks the Rocket, seriously injuring him. The other members of the Guardians of the Galaxy also step out to challenge Adam, but no one can match Adam. Even a powerful person like Drax is defeated by him. In the end, Nebula has to turn her hand into a knife and stab Adam through the body. Nebula's multifunction arm is later mentioned as a variant of the Rocket, because in Avengers 4 Nebula's arm was severely damaged while taking the Infinity Stone. Rocket then combined it with nanotechnology to create a new arm for her. After Rocket was temporarily stable, everyone quickly used the first aid kit to treat the injured Rocket. Adam also took advantage of the gap to escape the void, but instead of recovering, Rocket's injuries became more severe. After a general check and first aid, everyone discovered a device attached to Rocket's heart. If anyone tried to unlock this device, it would be activated and kill Rocket. Only by obtaining a key could this device be unlocked. Here we get a look back at Rocket's painful past. All the suffering in Rocket's life that the High Evolutionary had set out in previous works were also revealed at this point. The cruel biological experiments changed Rocket's body and brain structure. He was then thrown into a cold prison cell. But here he met some of his first and most unforgettable friends in life. During the high evolutionaries experiment on Rocket, the matter in Rocket's brain had developed dramatically. After that, Rocket returned to his cell and shared his knowledge with his friends and dreamed of a better life in the future. The movie uses a high-angle view and the cold cage to match their beautiful fantasies about the sky. In the end, they will not have a happy ending. At this time, the high evolutionaries biological experiment has encountered a bottleneck. But Rocket can see the problem at a glance because of Rocket's genius brain. The high evolutionary wanted to study Rocket's genius brain and his friends were also in danger, so he immediately returned to the cell and used the parts he stole to piece together a key to free his friends. But they were still murdered by the high evolutionary in front of Rocket. This will always be a wound that will never heal, so Rocket will always let his friends escape before they are in danger, all because he does not want to witness the tragedy of his friend dying in front of him again that has haunted Rocket for many years. That shadow never goes away is why in many previous movies, he often happily collects other people's body parts and makes friends. Nebula with a special structure in her body, she searched for the source of the protection device inside the rocket. It was a biotechnology company called the Orgoscope. The headquarters is on a large naturally grown flesh creature, so they immediately boarded the spaceship and went to the other side of the Orgoscope. And in the meantime, Adam went to Counter-Earth to report the reason for the failure of the mission to recapture the rocket.
You removed Adam from his cocoon early, my liege. He is still a child.
The high evolutionary then threatened Adam and his mother, but Adam's failure to complete the mission was in the calculation of the high evolutionary. He predicted that Rocket would be seriously injured, but if he wanted to be cured, he would have to go to the Orgoscope. The Guardians of the Galaxy have all arrived at the Orgoscope, but to get inside, they need to overcome 3 barriers. However, this does not bother Star-Lord, a professional thief. In the spaceship, Mantis asks Star-Lord, as an Earthling, why he never came to Earth to see if his grandfather was still there. Star-Lord then says that he did not want to go back. The reason why he had a hard time getting along with his grandfather on Earth, but the situation at that time, Star-Lord's grandfather took him out, just as Mantis said, no child should be hurt by witnessing life and death. And isn't Star-Lord really ignorant of the truth? It's not that he hasn't experienced life, death, or separation for many years. He definitely understood that it was really a misunderstanding. But he didn't dare to face his loved ones, just like he always spoke harshly to Yongdu before. But only after Yongdu passed away did he dare to face Yongdu's kindness to him. It seemed that the Star-Lord only spoke bad words about the Earth, but from childhood until now, he had been closely attached to the Earth's culture. It could be seen that in fact he was still thinking about the Earth in his heart. Just as he said, the Predator team responsible for responding also arrived at the spaceship after seeing Gamora that the Star-Lord was thinking about. Star-Lord still thought that Gamora wanted to rekindle the old relationship, but Gamora said that she was just here for revenge. The Predators wore the Orgoscope uniforms to better blend in. Everyone wore colorful flight suits and went to the Orgoscope surface. Nebula immediately changed hands and dug a hole. In the meantime, Star-Lord has made a passionate confession to Gamora. After entering the Orgoscope, this has obviously attracted the attention of the security personnel. When the patrol arrives, everyone has changed into their uniforms. These security personnel are not very smart, and everyone in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 successfully passes. After entering, Mantis and Drax are left to deal with the problem with the spaceship, and the rest are looking for the key. The others go to the Star-Lord archives intending to seduce him to impress him. But the grumpy Gamora directly controls the administrator and forces her to do as Gamora says. While getting the files about rockets, the alarm also rings. A large number of guards immediately rushed here. Nebula was shot and seriously injured by them, so Star-Lord tried to talk to that girl again to save her. Unexpectedly, it worked. The manager was very impressed by Star-Lord and allowed him to take over the control system. At this time, Groot also arrived at the spaceship and took everyone away from the Orgoscope. After getting Rocket's records, everyone finally understood Rocket's past. They were all saddened by the tragic things Rocket had to go through. I was very touched by Rocket's pain. But in the end, everyone discovered that there was a piece of information that had been deleted not long ago. The system displayed the operator as a fat man. Star-Lord had met this person by chance before in the archive. The important military data was in his head. Now they had to find this person to save Rocket. Gamora tried her best to stop it because this was very dangerous. Gamora felt that there was no need to take such a big risk, but the other bank members were still determined to save Rocket. Gamora angrily left them directly on the way to Counter-Earth in front of everyone. Star-Lord looked at the endless universe in a daze. The background music and lyrics at this time also fit Star-Lord's poetic nature and confused mood. In this song there are also lyrics. Do you realize that one day everyone you know will die? Combining the director's clever misdirection and fan speculation before the movie was released, everyone believed that another old friend would sacrifice himself in this movie. When the song was played, Star-Lord took off his headphones in time. At the end of the movie, everyone was safe and sound. Director James Gunn once said that he had not thought about the second ending, so there was reason to believe. The other side took a hostage and tried to extract some useful information from him, but the stunned Atom directly killed the prisoner. Although Atom was very strong, his mind was still immature. Everyone in the galaxy of the Guardians also came to counter Earth. Both the atmospheric environment and the building facilities were very similar to Earth. It was said that it was a copy of Earth, but it was different. All the residents here were highly evolved animals created by the High Evolutionary. Drax wanted to play with the children, but he hit them too hard. The anger of the animal residents present was dispelled by Groot. At this time, Star-Lord also tried his best to comfort a woman and explained that they would not cause any harm when they came here. After communicating with each other, they finally learned the location of the target. Mantis and Drax are tasked with guarding the house. Star-Lord and the others will go find the High Evolutionary. Because Star-Lord has never driven a car even though he is an Earthling, we can see his clumsiness when driving a car for the first time, but they still try to save their friend. Meanwhile on the ship, Gamora cannot understand why rockets is so important to them. On the way, Star-Lord and the others discover that the perfect world that the High Evolutionary created also exists: drug trafficking, fighting, etc. This also makes them question whether this world is really perfect. But in fact, the High Evolutionary also knows this phenomenon, so he created more advanced species that can operate for long periods of time without needing to replenish energy. But the downside is that he doesn't have the brain to think innovatively. Then Star-Lord on the other side arrived at the High Evolutionary spaceship. After passing the security check, Nebula, who was covered in weapons, was stopped outside. And the High Evolutionary on the long-awaited spaceship. After the rocket escape, the High Evolutionary also changed in both appearance and power. Now his power can even control Atom easily. The High Evolutionary told Star-Lord about his past experiences, saying that he had visited Earth before and was amazed at the achievements of humans on Earth, which also prompted him to create a more perfect counter-Earth than Earth. Star-Lord also immediately mocked the High Evolutionary. Talking to Star-Lord here is actually stalling for time to capture Rocket, and Drax was originally assigned to guard the house, but he insisted on helping Star-Lord. Gamora was left alone on the spaceship, allowing the pig-headed monster to successfully break into the spaceship. After the pig-headed monster succeeded, the High Evolutionary immediately started the spaceship and ran away, but they were too happy too soon. The pig-headed monster was stopped by the wizard Atom before it could escape from the spaceship. Gamora also took the opportunity to escape with the rocket. At this time, Counter-Earth was about to explode. Nebula quickly contacted her teammates, but Drax and Mantis were right behind her. Nebula had no choice but to quickly let Gamora start the spaceship. On the other side, Star-Lord was still stuck with the High Evolutionary, but knowing it was a trap, Groot immediately opened fire and Star-Lord immediately grabbed the Fat Man and defeated the Fat Man and took the key to save the rocket on his head. They boarded the spaceship and left Counter-Earth. However, the three people on the other side thought that Star-Lord was trapped on the High Evolutionary spaceship. They jumped on the spaceship. Everyone who received the key immediately started rescuing Rocket, but Rocket's situation did not improve at all. At this time, Rocket seemed to have reached heaven, but if we look closely, we can see behind him the cage where they were originally imprisoned. Obviously, they are still in prison at this time. This also shows that Rocket's heart has not been resolved for many years. Here, he saw his old friend and he wanted to stay with these friends. Rocket's heart gradually stopped beating and Lila also reluctantly had to leave Rocket in the dream. Lila told Rocket that it was not time for Rocket to go to heaven yet. Then Rocket woke up and his friends were also present, hugging each other tightly. The sincere feelings between them finally moved Gamora, and Gamora finally understood why she loved this Star-Lord in another time and space. On the other side, Nebula, who boarded the high evolutionary spaceship, finally broke through and loudly accused Drax. Although Drax is stupid, he also has a very kind heart. He doesn't take this to heart. I remember when Nebula first joined the Guardians of the Galaxy, she was still the same, asking how they could be called friends when they argued all the time. It's normal for friends to argue. Real family members are more likely to argue because everyone is always a different individual. To some extent, it will be inevitable that other conflicts will have conflicts, and now Nebula has accidentally become part of the argument, and how did it become friends? Later, the two groups of people who had lost contact also reconnected after hearing the news of Rocket's recovery. Their tense atmosphere finally ended. Especially Nebula cried with joy after hearing the news. This was because all the other members of the Guardians of the Galaxy had been gone for 5 years since Thanos' snap. Only Nebula and Rocket were still alive and depended on each other. Their relationship was the deepest among all the people in the bank. The High Evolutionary appeared and severed the relationship between them and put Nebula and the others in a cell, but they knew that Star-Lord would definitely come back to rescue them, so they tried to tell the children on the ship to stay away from them. From the right wall, but because of the language barrier, an argument broke out between Nebula and Mantis. At this time, Drax, who had experience as a father, stood up to talk to the children in his own way. Then, Star-Lord went to the spaceship, the High Evolutionary. Then, Star-Lord and his assistant Kraglin directly teleported to the entire space and controlled the cannons to attack the opponent. The High Evolutionary immediately sent his subordinates to protect his spaceship to start the war with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Nebula and the others encountered the Obelisk, a creature that appeared at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2, and loved to eat batteries. Mantis said that they only ate batteries and not people, so she used her own abilities to tame these three monsters. The home of the Guardians of the Galaxy was also invaded by the enemy. Kraglin immediately took out the whistle arrow to fight. After receiving Yondu's guidance, Kraglin finally mastered the use of the whistle arrow and used it to kill all the enemies. The High Evolutionary had completely lost his mind. Determined not to give up until Rocket was captured, he almost went crazy. He also stirred up the discontent of his subordinates, causing them to revolt on the spot. The members of the galaxy on the other side were rescued, but there were children and other animal experiments on the spaceship. The members of the galaxy also planned to rescue them. This was the purpose of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now there was a gap on the deck of the spaceship. As long as it was connected to the spaceship of the Guardians of the Galaxy, everyone could be saved safely. Finally, Nebula used her own arm to control the spaceship and successfully connected to the spaceship of Space Dog Cosmo using her telekinesis. A bridge built between the two for people to cross also saved dozens of people, which moved Adam deeply. However, Star-Lord discovered that Rocket had not yet boarded the ship. When evacuating, Rocket discovered that there were many animals in the spaceship, including many baby raccoons. At this time, Rocket finally knew what he was. He refused to admit that he was a raccoon. Now he finally had the answer. In addition, he still had friends to help him. After subduing the High Evolutionary, Rocket did not kill him but left him a way to survive. When the spaceship was about to be destroyed, everyone brought all the animals on board. But while leaving, Star-Lord accidentally dropped his music player. When he went back to pick it up, he wasted a lot of time and eventually suffocated in space. This is actually not the first time Star-Lord has been like this. In the first part of Guardians of the Galaxy, he was able to escape from there. The reason that the music player is important to Star-Lord is because it is a relic left to him by his mother before she passed away, so he treasures it very much. Luckily, Adam, who was affected by the kindness of the Guardians of the Galaxy, appeared at the right time. The scene of rescuing Star-Lord in this movie reminds us of the world-famous painting creation of Adam. The scene where Adam is held by his mother in the movie was also inspired by Michelangelo's statue of Christ the Lamenting. After returning safely, the Guardians of the Galaxy had a conversation. Everyone in the Guardians of the Galaxy has also come to different turns. Here, Groot feels proud of Gamora because the boy Groot, who always considered Gamora as a mother, has finally returned to the Predators. This Gamora is no longer the same Gamora as before. Star-Lord plans to return to Earth since his mother passed away when he was a child. This time he wants to face it bravely. Mantis wants to live an independent life. At first, she worked for her eldest brother and second brother. Then she stuck with the Guardians of the Galaxy from beginning to end. She played an extremely important role in the team. But at this point, Mantis wants to really live for herself. Drax wants to leave with her, but Nebula says he's still needed here because he's the only one here who can communicate with the kids. Nebula needs him to help build a new home. As for Rocket, he takes on the mantle of captain of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Continuing to spread the word about the Guardians of the Galaxy's exploits throughout the universe, Star-Lord even gives Rocket his own music player, and Rocket's leadership skills have actually been proven before. Of them, Groot finally says something else. This isn't because Groot has learned human language, but because we, the audience, can understand the meaning after being together for so long. Star-Lord returns to Earth, where he meets his elderly grandfather. The front page news on the newspaper read by Star-Lord's grandfather here is that Kevin was abducted by aliens in the Christmas special. The Guardians of the Galaxy have begun a new adventure with a white-haired girl named Phyla. This character is derived from the comic book character Phyla-Vell of Captain Marvel. She also has Captain Marvel's quantum bracelet. Maybe in the next episodes, Philadelphia will somehow get the two bracelets on Kamala's hand and act as the next Captain Marvel. The familiar melody will eventually resound in the Guardians of the Galaxy series, starting and ending with this song. As a perfect ending to this series, there is no need to separate life and death. A happy farewell can also be deeply ingrained in people's hearts even though from now on we are far apart. We will still be members of the Guardians of the Galaxy. The Guardians of the Galaxy. Above is the entire content of this video. If you like this work, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Your support will be the biggest motivation for my next videos.